You are comfortably zoned with the Zigzag Man in Alameda, California, pushing on the doors of life marked pull and fighting the unholy trinity as we go. Big business, organized religion, and government. I am back, as usual, in Alameda, California. I'm the Zigzag Man. You're comfortably zoned. And I'm happy to be here. I'm just thrilled because I'm sitting here, not at our usual 420 studio. I'm on the lawn of City Hall. Just took a big picture with all the Trish Spencer supporters. She ran for mayor on a grassroots campaign to get rid of the corrupt regime that was in office. Mayor Gilmore has been horrible, Sun Cal, and all that. And she frickin' won. She's Trish Spencer, and I'm just sitting here glowing that I've had her on. We did a great interview. You got to know her as a human being. And we're going to have a little change in Alameda. My guest today is going to help me fight the unholy trinity that's led to the world the way it is. She's an old friend from the 80s and an old acquaintance from the 80s and a mutual friend of some of my best friends in life. She's an Oakland resident and a free thinker and a wonderful spirit. Welcome to these microphones, comfortably zoned, Ms. Jill Jensen. How are you, Jill?
I'm pretty good. How are you? Although I don't know if I like you emphasizing the old part, but
I'll
let it go.
With me, I think old is better than elderly, and I think old chicks.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Right. So because I am old myself, I could say that without being elderly, and as are you.
I guess old is relative, you know.
Absolutely, I have some very old relatives, and
yes, we do.
Yes, we all do, and I'm happy you're here because we get to renew our acquaintanceship. The theme of this show, we're going to talk about all kinds of things about the unholy trinity. To identify it, Jill knows it well. It is organized religion, the government, and big business. And I think the three of them combine to make our lives as a community of humanists absolutely horrible.
Oh, well, especially religion. Excuse me. I mean,
well, you can't. I've gone back and forth. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Religion, especially, you could say, but the government. You can say
they're all in
business.
bed with each other.
Exactly.
I think
so. But today we're gonna concentrate on blurring the line between church and state. It's been blurred so irrevocably lately that I want somebody else's opinion. And my good buddy Scott Gilpin is a political scientist, and he did a segment that's going to come on after this with me about how why we don't want the line to disappear between church and state. You mentioned church. That's our big bugaboo. We recently, you and I, saw a posting by our mutual friend David, and it is about a small town in Alaska who's going to start taxing the church.
I think that's a wonderful idea.
I do too, and we both responded to that, so I'm going to make it the theme of the show. In your words, what is it about the church? And we're talking about the hierarchy of the church. When I say that, I mean the temple, the mosque, all of it, not the individual workers. It's just like when I talk about the government, I'm not talking about the postman that delivers the mail. I'm talking about the hierarchy of the government. When I talk about big biz, I'm not talking about the secretary who's the receptionist. That's the people. Big biz is the chairman of the board making 450 times more per hour than the average worker. It's fucked. And
big time.
So it is big time, and so it is with the church. So, in your words, Jill, I'm going to just shut up and stop my ranting and let you talk about what it is about the church and the way you see it. That you see it as I do as a vomitorium. Tell me why. Tell me why organized religion is.
My main thing is, I was raised in the church. I went to church probably every Sunday from the time I could walk until I was 18. Once I was 18, they couldn't make me go anymore. And I was involved in youth groups at the church. I sang in the choirs. But you know what? I was also growing up in the 50s and 60s on the south side of Chicago, which was a real education in itself. And I got to watch these so-called compassionate Christians preaching bigotry and racial hatred.
Okay. Was that the Catholic church?
No, this was the Congregational church.
Okay.
You know, let's see, I believe we were considered the direct descendant of the Church of the Pilgrims. Okay?
Oh, I want to congratulate you. Belatedly, of course.
Yes, for what? For leaving? Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I was horrified by these people. My parents had been raised Presbyterian, instead became members of the Congregational church. They were both big supporters of the church. Comes years later, after my father had passed away, my mom passes away, I go back to Chicago for her funeral. I happen to be married to a black man. He comes with me to the funeral. I actually had people from her church saying loudly enough to be heard that, why did I have that, and you know what, with me at my mother's funeral?
Wow.
And I had to write these people a big check donating a large amount of money that my mother left them. I was so furious I couldn't even speak to them. Now, where do you think they learned all this? From
their parents and from the church.
And from the church.
Where do you think they learned to vote? And they politicized from the pulpit. That's what gets me.
Of course, and it transfers over, too, to the huge amount of disrespect people in this country have for our current president. I don't care if you don't like his politics, but the man was legally elected, and, you know, stuff like calling his wife a gorilla. Did you read that one recently? That was all.
I've read it all. It's absolutely disgusting.
My personal favorite was someone referring to him as he's gay and she's a transsexual. That was my personal favorite.
Jesus
Christ. People,
with all
the vile things they say about a man that you at least owe respect to as a legally elected official. You know,
right.
I mean, it horrifies me. And where do people learn this stuff? They learn it from the church. They learn it from their parents, and it's been passed down for years. It's horrifying. And yet these people think
it goes from generation to generation, and there are certain branches of the church that make up for the other branches by the little good that they do in the community.
You know, where do they think the so-called Jesus Christ, who, of course, I didn't think was around anyways, but he was blonde and blue-eyed? I don't think so.
He's supposed to be a Jew boy like David and I, for crying out loud.
Yeah, he was swarthy, he had brown hair, dark. You know, if the man existed, which is not... That's another whole story.
I mean, that's another whole story. He might be mythological, he might not.
And
for whatever
the
reason,
church supposedly
Paul ruined the spirit of it. Paul ruined the spirit of it by right.
Well, Paul hated women anyways. Don't get me going on Paul there. You know.
All right, I won't.
No, I have no use for St. Paul. What I've read of his communications mostly were just disgusting. But what gets me too is the one thing that the Christian church is always supposed to have put forward is love thy neighbor as yourself. And the basis of everything was love, help the poor. Jesus hated the money changers, all of that. And these people have totally forgotten all that. Totally forgotten it. It isn't even brought up anymore.
What would you do to change things if you could just suddenly have the magic wand or the power to do so?
Let's keep churches out of schools and out of government.
Right.
You're entitled to your opinion on what fantasy, sky daddy you want to believe in. but I don't want to see that promulgated through the schools. I mean, teaching creationism? Oh, yeah. That's the problem. Even if you don't agree with facts, they're still facts. And they're not some made-up fantasy. How can they push stuff like that? It's just...
I think that if they would teach biology before they taught creationism,
well,
you would have no need to... You would no need to... it's silliness in public schools. Well, they could do what you want in private schools, and but again, that's private, and to mix it with public, to blur that line, is pretty sick.
It's horrible.
Anyway,
it makes me ill.
Jill. Let me talk about some positive stuff about Jill and her passion. Your passion is horses. I talk to passionate people all the time on this show, well-spoken individuals, and I want you to keep coming back and exploring these things. But I want you to tell me a little bit about you and what the horse thing is and where that got started, because...
actually, it's animals in general. I mean, besides the horse, I have 2 dogs, 3 cats, a couple of birds, and at one time I had many more than I have right now. But
you got Gizmo the parrot, right? In the
Gizmo,
background.
my parrot, Maximilian, my cockatiel. I have 3 cats, Willie, Pete, and Shelley. And all of these animals are rescues, except for probably Max.
Nice.
Max we got on purpose. Gizmo was rehomed from someone who had him before I had him. 2 of my cats were rescued as babies from a bad home. The third one, somebody had dumped in a local East Bay Regional Park. And I brought her home and gave her a safe place to live. My 2 pit bulls, Liz and Rose, are sisters from the same litter. Their litter was found in a garbage bag in a park in Hayward as newborns, still had umbilical cords attached, never got to nurse off their mother, thrown away like garbage. They were, hours from dying from heat and dehydration. We bottle raised the litter, and I ended up keeping 2 of them. And then my horse, my thoroughbred, was a off-the-track racehorse. He was
really?
He's a Secretariat grandson.
Oh, wow. That is very cool.
Oh, he's beautiful, and he's very big. He's a good 6 inches taller than your average thoroughbred. If I come out, can I get on him just once? Sure, come up to the barn with me someday.
I
go every day.
Oh,
well, that's
beautiful.
Okay. I go to the barn every afternoon.
If I could get a picture, sitting on Secretariat's grandson, that's better than Secretary's grandson sitting on me. That's better than Secretariat's grandson, the horse, sitting on Rose Nissa's grandson, the Jew boy. So we're going to just do it right.
Look, I also have taken care of another horse who's a double great granddaughter of Secretariat. But let me put this in perspective.
Whoa.
Secretariat had 663 offspring. He was a very busy boy in the breed shed.
You can't say that there was a little Mormon church in him. A little bit.
Well, he was a very busy boy in the breed shed.
I mean, that stuff wears off. A very, very busy boy. So a happy boy. A busy boy is a happy boy.
Oh, yeah, and he was at Stud. He was at Stud from 74 until he passed away in, I believe it was 89.
I had good years in 74 too. I was never referred to as a stud, though. I was referred to as, hey, who's that guy who came to the party? who's that guy who came to the party? That's how I was referred to. What? I remember him. Well,
who
yeah.
got him?
Yeah. Well, he's David's friend. Oh, I got you. And Barb, right?
And talking about the animals, I just had one of my cats come over and sit down in my lap and go, "What are you doing?"
And you know, you can talk because they look up at you. Animals will look up at you like, "Wow, what's going on?"
Oh no, I have a very close relationship with my animals, all of them. I mean, right. The one cat who's sitting on me right now is more dog-like than cat. He comes when he's called. Always. If I need him, all I have to do is call him a couple times. He comes to mommy. He sleeps with me every night. The horse is amazing. You'll love the horse, though. You really do.
Even though it's 600 Jews have sat on 600 other horses at one time or another, I'm still going to feel very special.
Well, let me ask you, how tall are you, Ralph?
5'10", 5'9", if you really want to be.
You're almost. You will be barely able to see over his back if you stand next to him. He's 6 foot at the shoulder. This horse is 6 foot at the shoulder. If he gets his head way up in the air, because I'm 6 foot tall myself, if my horse gets his head way up in the air, I can't reach the top of his head. He's very big. And yet he follows me around like a puppy.
Nice.
I've had him
He's gentle,
14 years.
And he won't buck me or anything like that.
No.
Buck me off the horse.
Yeah, with a B. No, but
right.
No, he won't. I mean, I don't think I would trust you riding him around without me standing next to him.
Oh, I would. Or you just hold the reins and you walk me around like a pony ride, and you take a picture, and I'm off.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's all we're doing. There's no Hopalong Cassidy fantasies on this guy.
Oh, you don't want to play Hi Ho Silver away.
Hi Ho, right? Hey, Hi Ho Silver away. That's how I developed my radio voice back in those days.
Well,
but,
it would be easy. Believe me, you want to feel insignificant. Stand next to my horse when he's up on his hind legs.
All right. So what we're going to play.
He's about 15 feet tall when he does that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's going to be a thrill. And we'll do a segment from out that way. And
that would be fun. There's no radio. I don't.
A recurring guest.
Oh, I'd love to.
We'll do it right into what we're doing it into now, and we'll make it work. And I enjoyed the hell out of having you.
I'm happy to be here. I
hope you promise to come back. All right.
Well, I will.
You will, of course. And
I'd love to.
It'll be fun for me. I'll be out at the stables the next time. It's like the Spin and Marty show. Do you remember Spin and Marty when we were kids?
Oh, God, it was one of my favorites when I was a kid.
Yeah, mine too. Because I went to regular summer camp where horses weren't that prominent, but I remember they'd go around. I felt very jealous that I had to grow up in the city.
Well, now see, I grew up in the city too, but I found a way to have horses as a kid, and then really got back into them as an adult. Ouch! Don't bite me.
Well,
sorry.
We're always going to have a lot to talk about, Jill. But this thing.
Thank you so much, Ralph. I enjoyed this immensely.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Because I've had fun, and the name of the game is fun. And I want to end the segment by imploring you, Jill, and all my studio audio, even if it's one at a time, to keep your dreams wet, keep your humor dry, keep your kids out of military recruiting stations, and keep your children off the laps of clerics that wear dresses.
That's a good.
All of them are bad. That's a good thing. If you're looking for cheap daycare, it ain't going to come cheap that way. You know what I'm saying? So,
right.
There's an expense, always an expense, and if you're going to pay to have someone frolic with your child, think about spending your money elsewhere. Take them
to the barn.
Yeah, take them to a barn with a horse. A horse not going to bother. Of course, a horse is a horse.
Horses are great for kids. They really are. They teach them responsibility.
Absolutely, because something's got to teach we children responsibility.
I'm always happy to teach kids about horses. They're good for kids.
We'll make some arrangement to have kids come down someday and clerics with dresses and see who the kid really gravitates to naturally without being prodded on.
I think they'll pick the horses.
Right. I'm guessing that, but a little prodding and it is Hail Mary, full of grace. Woo! Listen,
Yippee-i-o-ki-yay.
Yes, yippee-i-o-ki-yay. Hey, Father O'Brien, frolic with somebody else's children next time. Yeah, that's what Archie Bunker would have said. He was a conservative man. Said, yeah, that's not right. Eat it. Chalk to your father over there. Give him a good talking to there. Eat it. He needs one good talking to. Speaking of horses, he needs. Some of them need gelding themselves. Listen, we're out of here.
Thank you,
Ralph. You had fun. Jill, you had fun.
I did, too. Yep, I had a good time.
I did. We're out of here. Everybody, keep on keeping on. You too, Jill.
Thank
you.
Love
you, dear.
Bye. Hello.
I am back, and you are comfortably zoned in Alameda, California at the 420 studio, down by the lagoon with the Zigzag Man, and it's Sunday 420 where we do most of our recordings and prepare the segment of the week. And today we're going to talk about the separation of church and state. And Brother Scott is here. He is the brains of the operation and has been for 3 years now. He is going to talk about the essence of separation in church and how it was in the past decade or so, maybe 2 decades ago, brought to light in Poland. So, Scott, here's the mic. Welcome back, man.
Thanks for having me. Can we start with a disclaimer?
Sure.
I'm not the brains of the outfit.
Then we got big problems, young man.
We already knew that.
All right.
But let's get to it. The point I was making with you in a conversation a moment ago that we wanted to elaborate on right here is that many people share views on the issue of the church and the state and the separation of the same. How much separation of church and state is there? Should there be a separation of church and state? What was the intent of the founding fathers of the U.S. Constitution? And things of that nature. And those are all interesting questions. But the point I was making a moment ago, and I hope your listeners will appreciate, is that for some of us, it's easier to see the issue of church and state illuminated and to observe the effects that that excessive entanglement between church and state has on society, the damaging effects, I think, is to look at it in some other country, not your own. It seems harder to see for some people here in this country than it would be, for instance, if we're looking at Afghanistan or Saudi Arabia or someplace far away. And the example we were discussing was Poland in the 1980s. There was, in a modern industrial country, it has a very large peasantry, but it still has a large industrial base, the Solidarity movement, originally in those days led by Lech Walesa, first name L-E-C-H, last name W-A-L-E-S-A, and I believe it's pronounced Lech Walesa. He was the Vatican's man in Warsaw, and he was also the State Department's man in Warsaw. He was really entangled with Western intelligence services and the Vatican, and the Pope John Paul II in particular. And the Polish regime came down ultimately in no small part because of a group that he led called Solidarity, or in Polish, Solidarność. And it billed itself as a trade union, but I think if you read the news, you can see that it's much more than a trade union dealing with typical trade union issues. It was a social movement. In my mind, it was a backward social movement in many respects. And but in the end, it was very, very predominantly Catholic also, and avowedly so. Pictures in the newspaper on the front page would show Solidarity supporters on their knees in certain, even outdoor locations where there wasn't a church, just on their knees giving confession to a priest in traditional garb, seated in a chair in public, and things like that. And if you go to Poland today, I'm told, some of the social benefits that 20th century Polish society, even under the, especially I should say, in large part because it had joined the Eastern Bloc and was, it had a socialist economy, a publicly owned economy. They had free daycare or low-cost daycare and a national health plan that everyone got covered under. We can say what we will about the state of Polish medicine overall, and certainly it had its problems, but the point is nobody was denied treatment because they didn't have money or insurance, and that was the law. Those kinds of benefits are being whittled away and in large part removed. The population today doesn't enjoy the same level of benefits in terms of education costs, health care costs, daycare costs, things of that nature. I also believe they've passed some restrictive laws on a woman's right to elect for an abortion to terminate a pregnancy. I don't think they have the same rights to that they once enjoyed. And I believe that that's in large part due to the influence of the Catholic Church in this case, reasserting its influence in that society and in that government since the fall of the Berlin Wall and the dismantling of the Eastern Bloc, or the implosion of the Eastern Bloc. That's the point I was trying to make. You can like Solidarity, you can dislike Solidarity as a social movement in Poland, but you can't deny that it was predominantly religious. It was largely influenced by religion, and that they exercised a powerful influence on events that transpired there, and to this day still exercise an inordinate influence in the government.
Scott, absolutely wonderful. Explains it all. That's the segment. Short and sweet. You got it. You want separation of church and state in the United States of America? I think not. You don't want to blur those lines any more than they've been blurred. And you do want separation of church. You do not want to blur the lines between separation of church and state. That was explains it all, Scott. Thanks for being here. I'm going to end the segment the same. And every segment I implore you, Scott, and my listening audience to keep your dreams wet, keep your humor dry, keep your kids off the laps of clerics-wearing dresses. And in lieu of this most recent Veterans Day celebration, which doesn't begin to pay homage to the veterans themselves, by the way, and what they are denied in benefits, keep your kids out of military recruiting offices. They will take a kid, and if you're lucky, they'll return them, but always in a much, much worse manner. No matter how it turns out, you don't want your kids affected by the military-industrial complex. Don't have your child be fodder. It is an economic war. Don't be fooled. People get killed. Kids get killed on a daily basis. Let somebody else's grandmother worry. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks, Scott, for being here.
Ciao.
Bye.